Hey, Carolyn. Hey, everyone. Hopefully, you can all hear me. I'll get started here in a couple of seconds. It's going to be me, myself, and I. Let's see if Ted wants to join us. Oh, yep, he does. Sweet. So we'll wait for Ted here. All right. While we're waiting for Ted, he's coming. We have got 13 stories. Sounds like a lot, but really, 5 of them are a tools created by a guy named Pablo Rosales. So we're gonna show off some of those tools that Pablo made and let you find out where to find the rest of them. He also has a Chrome extension, so I want to highlight that. And then there's a couple things, just some general tip stuff, and then we'll round it out with the stories, which is really there's 3 that are pretty good and 2 that are pretty awesome. That at least get the old brain juices flowing. So we'll close out with those. I appreciate. I know some of you are active and you're always watching at the 11 a.m. hour, and we're doing it at 2. So, is this hour better for you guys? To me, I had to switch it because of another commitment with the family. But if this hour is better for viewers, then I'm certainly open to moving the hours around so we can get the most people watching live as possible. When are the dogs appearing on the show? They're all laying down right there. I can actually move the camera if you wanted to. I bet you I can show you. Hold on. You can see the office. Okay. There's Katniss. She hangs out there, and then there's DC. Both Belgian Malinois. That's where they hang out. So if you see me tipping over, it's usually because they're at my feet. And you can imagine the excitement that goes on when they hear someone at the door and decide that they need to run and investigate. So. And there's Ted. Sweet. Ted, we started without you. I wasn't sure if you wanted to come. I changed the time without notifying you, so I didn't want to just assume you're going to be here.
So we're live on the air?
We are.
Nice. Hello, everyone. So where are we?
I just started. I was just showing off the dogs. So the famous dogs that bark as soon as we start. But the pool guy's already been here, and I don't think we have anything. We're not expecting anything from the mailman, so it should be all right.
Excellent.
Well, how's things in Tedland?
Oh, it's all right. Keep getting complications from my fall in London, so dealing with that.
Oh, really? What's going on now?
Oh, I injured a disc in my spine. So
awesome.
Yeah, the arm's awesome, better.
Well, can you type now at least?
Yeah, I can type. I just can't sit for very long.
Oh, I see. That sucks. You have a standing desk by any chance?
I might have to get one. So
yeah. I got one of the very desks. You just grab the handles and go up and down with it.
Yeah.
And then I bought it's a stool. I bought one of those so that if I want to stand up for long periods, I can just lean back on the stool and it'll catch me. So technically I'm still up, but I'm not, and I'm not holding all this fat bodiness on these 2 feet. So
yeah. So that's the route I'm probably gonna go soon.
Yeah, I think you'll like it anyway. I get a little bit more productive when I'm standing up. I do the shows mostly standing up because I think I talk clearer. And then when I'm sitting down, I just end up getting hunched over, and you know how that goes. So we'll see. Let's go. I want to get started. We got the, like I said, I have, come on. Later. I don't know if this is going to let me do it. Hold on. I think I just got screwed by Zoom. Yeah, I got to restart Zoom. Don't sign off, Ted. And I'm going to use the link and come right back.
Okay.
And I'll explain why in a second.
I just got chat pulled up. Does anybody want me to announce anything? Anybody promoting any special services or products? I see Lee's in chat. Leon's there as usual. Kyle Arnold. Carolyn's here. Let's see. So nobody has anything they want me to share now that I have total control of Clint's channel. I guess not. So I guess I'll tell you about SEO Fight Club tomorrow. Kyle Roof is putting together the content. Let me know, Dorian, what should I shout out? Oh, Clint is back. Too late, guys. You got to be faster than that.
I love Zoom. I love that if one of us had a problem, it doesn't matter. Zoom is still going to run. It's still going to take care of everything. It doesn't totally destroy the show, which is awesome. So if I had done what I was originally going to do, we would have been screwed. So what the hell was that all about? If you haven't updated yet, the Mac OS Catalina is out. And they've changed the security functions of it and kind of tightened everything up. The downside is every new thing that you turn on, you got to authorize permissions and all that madness. So share screen functions, for example, for Zoom, I had to authorize, and then it makes you restart the app after you authorize, which is, a pain. So, but I'm getting used to it, and it's running really well on my older Mac, so which is good. It didn't slow anything down, which is typically what you see if you go from like a later Windows to a newer Windows. It slows things down more. I didn't have that issue during this round. The last update, OS update I did. So let me try that again. Did I miss any cool? Did you get away anything while I was gone?
No. It was really difficult getting people to share ideas. So next time, audience, when Clint goes out, let me know what you want me to promote, and I'll start. But you got to be quick because Clint comes back quickly.
The good thing is there's that delay, so it saved me that a little bit. So here we go. SEO this week, episode 138. Again, I'm looking at a lot of tools this time, and we're looking at some analysis and some link building strategy posts that were put out, which are pretty good. Without further ado, since it's already 5 minutes past the hour, the first one is on Search Engine Journal. Is Bing web crawler goes evergreen and improves JavaScript crawling. If you don't know, the Bing bot is actually now on Chromium, which is a good thing. I think everyone's kind of standard now, other than Firefox. I'm not sure, Ted. Do you know if Firefox is running on Chromium? I don't think it is. I think they have their own thing.
I don't think it is. It was kind of an oddball for a while there. Yeah. So what does it mean that Bing's web crawler goes evergreen?
Oh, I think it kind of, to me, this is my interpretation of this, because this is kind of the nerdy Ted side, is that if it's already, it kind of matches in with how Google is seeing it. So if you're optimizing for Google and then praying for Bing, you have a higher chance of actually Bing being able to read that entire page. I guess before, with the older Google bots, there wasn't reading a lot of the JavaScript, and there's Java sites, AngularJS, for example, that weren't being read, and now they are. And then Bing is just kind of catching up with their browser, which I think is a good thing for everybody. Now, I could be completely wrong from a nerd speak. What the hell is it?
I think they're kind of using the wrong word there in the title. So it's a weird, editorial choice for a word. I don't think it means what they think it means.
I think my guess is that Evergreen cart came out of, remember when you were talking about how Chromium is going to be updated more often, and the Google bot will be updated more often. To keep it more consistent with Chrome, I guess, is the idea behind that, if I'm mistaken. So when they adopted Chromium, now they're always updated more often. which is kind of on a piggyback, if as it were.
Yeah, that's kind of the opposite of how Evergreen is used. Like when you create Evergreen content, you write it once and it's good forever.
Yeah.
You know, so an Evergreen web crawler would be you build it once and it works forever.
It works forever. Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of the wrong word because it's not actually evergreen if it's constantly changing and being updated.
Well, we'll beat up Matt Southern on Twitter. So.
Yeah, it's just a weird time.
We got any social justice warriors? Go beat up Matt Southern on Twitter. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, quit reinventing lingo.
All right, let's see the next one. Stencil. It's getstencil.com, top Twitter strategies to grow your business in 2020. I'm not sure if I covered this or not. It was still left in my queue. I don't think I did because it's from October 9th. I think I got it on that day, but we'll see. If I didn't, well, whatever. Anyways, some of the things, Twitter polls show up on video. Video is actually doing pretty well on Twitter. So I would check that out and just make yourself, little small ones. Obviously, there's a cap, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So you can, if you're doing YouTube ads, you can actually A/B test them on Twitter, find out which ones get the most engagement and stuff, and then pay for the ads on the YouTube if you want to go that route. There is the ever always go find the right influencers, and you can use tools like BuzzSumo. Not really have a whole lot of luck with that because honestly, I'm running a business. I'm running two. So going on Twitter and engaging with people over and over and over again in hopes that one day they're going to like me, they're going to really, really like me and link to my stuff is a little bit out there. But, you can get some people sharing and stuff, which is great. I get people that are consistently sharing SEO this week on Facebook and Twitter and sometimes even on the LinkedIn. So it's always good to, at least get out there and be known to some people. Use Twitter to answer questions. Yeah, that's okay. There's only so much you can do in, 140 characters now, 230 or some craziness if you're lucky. But if you're doing you find a lot of questions on there and then you turn that into content or a crazy FAQ page or something like that, that's a good opportunity to leverage Twitter to do that. And I think the number one way is to optimize your Twitter cover photo and just rank your Twitter profile. And that's a good way to get your brand out there and to establish the entity as well if you guys are into doing that, which you should be. So this is a great post to check it out. Some cool ideas. Twitter chats. I didn't even know they had a Twitter chat. And the concept it was a little foreign to me at first. I was like, what is this, like a new service or something like that? But basically, it's just creating a hashtag and then going out and having someone moderate and throw questions and then you answer using the moderations. There's who is it? I think SEMrush used to do those weekly. I'm sure there's still a couple of them out there that are weekly kind of or SEO chat kind of things. So check out how those things are done and that's actually pretty cool and good way to engage and get new ideas and stuff too. Go ahead, Ted.
The larger SEO conferences do that, where they create a hashtag for the whole conference and then a hashtag for each speaker, and you can go into that and share comments and stuff while the presentations are going on.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think what is a famous one is the MozCon does that. I'm not sure if Pubcon did it. I know there were some tweets from Pubcon because I have a SEO list I built in Twitter, but I'm not sure if they do that Twitter chats thing. But that's also a good idea. Or SEO this week, for example, or Fight Club. That'd be a good opportunity to create a Twitter chat around that one.
Yeah, and if you were really awesome at the video streaming, you could show on the sidebar the live tweets as you're doing your show.
Yeah. Chase Rainier does that. Yeah, I don't know how he's doing it, but he's got a nice little setup. He used it a couple times, and then I saw one today from a coffee company, and they had that sidebar with the Twitter and the social and the actual video in there, and that's pretty cool. So maybe if you're cool with building one of those templates, you try that out. I certainly got the green screen part set up so I can plug it in there easily.
It's risky because anybody who wants to troll you could do it in real time.
Yeah, that's all right. I probably deserve trolls at one point in time. Next is WPLift.com, and it's a more of an announcement than an article. But if you're using WPML to translate your web pages into other services or other languages, I'm sorry, I misspoke. But then they got an update in this string translation, which actually makes this plugin a lot faster. I'm a PageSpeed nut, and I actually did notice that WPML, when you turn it on, it does slow things down. And now they've kind of fixed that by 50%, which is excellent. Because in my opinion, for users, every millisecond matters. And that's good. Hopefully they actually figured out the quality stuff. But if you're not too, nailed down in the quality and the nuances of different languages and stuff, I would give this a try, fire it up on your website, and this maybe attack another market. For example, SEOs go to Portugal or Brazil, for example, and try out your luck on ranking a page in an international market on your website. So this is a good opportunity to try that out. Plus, there's easy rankings over there on in the foreign languages. There's not really a whole lot of people competing. Not to say there's no competition. It's just not as hard as it is in the US, UK, or Australia, for example. Do you use any plugins for translation, Ted, or are you kind of buying and paying for someone actually manually do it, which ultimately is better? But
unfortunately, as a software provider, the Russians are constantly attacking my servers. This morning between logins on the server, probably an hour span of time, there were 96,000 failed attempts to log into the server using root.
Wow.
So, I don't use anything that has 0-day hacks anymore. So I just like low-level HTML. Good luck hacking that. And the page load times on static HTML files are awesome. So I totally win that battle.
Yeah.
And I just can't afford to risk it. So, if I had a blog, I wouldn't care. I'd set up WordPress, but running a software business that's being actively targeted, I have to be smarter than that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I heard you are considering bringing Quora into the foreign language age, though. Out there as an option.
Well, the problem is it's not just like translating the text in the software. Like people tend to think, oh, that's all you have to do. The problem is, what do you do when somebody emails you or calls you on the phone for support and they only speak Portuguese?
Yeah.
So how do you support those customers? So really, I have to partner with people who want to sell my product, who speak the language, who can take over the support in that language so that we can still deliver quality support.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so simply making the software in different languages, that's kind of the easy part of the problem.
You mean you don't want to learn Portuguese?
Well,
is that what you're saying, Ted? You don't want to speak Portuguese?
Every country you got to speak another language. It's too hard to speak them all.
You know what they call a person that only speaks one language? American. All right. So in the pre-show, this is what I was referencing to Pablo Rosales. I actually found him in Stephen Kang's group, SEO Signals Lab. I'm pretty sure I said that right. But basically, he's using JSON-LD to do some different functions in that. And one of the functions Ted would appreciate is, let's see if it's here. Nope, I didn't show it. Is getting the variations, the bolded out of the search results. So to use these, and there's a bunch more I'll show you just in a second. But to use these, all you do is right-click and click on Inspect. Go to Sources. Click on New Snippet, and then it'll open up a new box. And then you come in here and you select all this madness. And then you'll paste it inside of this thing right here. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't need that new one, but those are all in there. So the ones that he's made so far, he made this one at my request. It's Stu Scrape Bing URLs. You can clean out the content, which basically strips all of the everything out of it. The only thing left is the text, which is cool. Internal link status, JSON-LD check, metadata, and stuff like that. And you can see here, these are blank because I just didn't push enter. I haven't used them yet. But to find all of them, click on Pablo's name inside of the GitHub, and you will see all of the ones that he's done. Really cool, smart dude. If he can code it already, then why not leverage this stuff? So that it's pretty, it's useful. And I think you'll find at least one or two things in here that you'll appreciate. As just shown the JSON-LD, you can do the SEO on page. It'll tell you all of the tags and stuff. That was really cool. This one will scrape all the people to also ask inside of a search result for you, which is really helpful, especially if you're doing Q&A stuff or Q&A videos. And then he's also made this extension, and you can pop that onto Ghost, and it's just something different, just augment what you already have. Like I'm a SERP I use SERPworks here for everything, but this kind of adds on to it, and you just get another third-party tool to go onto it. And as you see, it's updated just a couple of days ago, so he's actually maintaining this, and he's doing it all for free. So I would check all of those tools, and then you can connect with him inside of the SEO Signals Lab. And if you have an idea, maybe he can code it up for you. Again, I just asked him out of the blue if he'd make the big one for me, and he did. So that was pretty cool.
Well, the next level you could go with this is to get a introduction to creating Chrome browser plugins, because those are all written in HTML and JavaScript. And then you can just basically make your own plugin and put all those in and have a menu and just pick them from your toolbar when you need them in the browser.
For sure. I think that's what he was doing. He said he did a post where he was, because he's learning or doing SEO. He came from a programmer background, and he just started doing SEO full time, and he just brought his background into it, and he was making these tools, and he was going to be a software provider, kind of like you, but he decided he wanted to focus more on the SEO side of actually doing SEO versus providing software for it. So I think that's where that extension was born, and that was the idea. But then he's like, "Nah, I don't want to deal with that." So it takes a special kind of guy to do software.
Well, it's not easy. Like, being a software provider is very different than being an SEO, because in providing software, you're basically a customer service rep. That's your career at that point. And some people hate that. Like, that's hell for some people.
Right. Let's see. This is Lumen Ad as a beginner's guide to programmatic advertising. If you, this is all the platforms that are available for ad tech if you're doing display ads. I'm sure everyone has seen this at one point or another, and you're like, all right, that's cool, but what the hell does it all mean? And this is essentially a glossary to kind of break down the different stuff. There's things that are available and the actual levels that go along with doing display ads, which do work. They're working a lot better. Obviously, banner blindness kicks in at some point in time, and you have to kind of deal with that issue. But there's plenty of traffic sources using display ads that you need to be at least aware of when you're providing an SEO as a service. Let's say you got a 10K a month client and you need to provide them stuff now. You drop in their stuff to an ad network while you're building up on the SEO side. You're still delivering, you're not using SEO, but they don't really necessarily need to know that. You're advertising for them, you're helping them retain their goals. So this is a good opportunity to learn some of the different things. Typically, us as peons are going to get stuck right around in here in the publisher side. But as you grow and you get a lot more, you can just kind of work your way up the ladder. Again, this is a great explainer post into that world. I don't know too many people that actually sell courses or stuff that are doing this. There were some people, but again, they all pretty much stay right around this section right here. Oh, excuse me. Q&A with Gary Isles, Pubcon in Vegas. Got some mixed reviews from Pubcon actually this year. A lot of people that are in my circle, they didn't really get anything out of Pubcon. They find it kind of, mainstream. Whereas you listen to an enterprise SEO, who's got a brand, and content marketing is the way to be, but and don't really have to promote, and you don't have to work that hard at ranking because you're pushing the ranking power out of your brand. So I got a lot of complaints concerning that about this, but this was a Q&A that was put on there with Gary Isles, and there's some cool information in here. There was one I wanted to point out. Here, there is no eternal EAT score or your money in your life score. The raters are for raters. And then he says down here when addressing EAT, let me see it. I gotta find it. It's a pretty good thing. Knowledge graph. Here you go. Leaning towards target. Is there a specific? I had this highlighted earlier and I lost it. Here you go. So when he's talking, I don't know if you remember in SEO Fight Club where Kyle was talking about the Medic update and doing resources and references to your content, kind of to establish the I don't want to say the authority of it, but I guess it's just kind of the way we're at to go, or establish the truthfulness or the validity of your argument, and you back it up with resources. And Gary says right here, pretty specifically, you sure as hell better have a resource with that extensive information. Now, if you were at the SEO Rockstars, the VIP day, you know where I'm going with this. I can't give that out because it was the VIP day. But sure as to suffice it to say is if you're going to cite someone and you're going to say something, especially if you're in the health niche, look at annotating where that information came from and make sure that it's tested. So he also was clear to point out that there's not like this one algorithm that says, and there's been some follow-on stories today about this as well, but there's not one algorithm that says this page is correct versus this one is not. They're using tiny algorithms within the scope of the whole to look for certain specific things, and then they put it all together, and that's how they're kind of saying whether something is real or not, which I found fascinating, especially from our perspective, and especially if you're wearing the black hat, is how do you, or even the white hat, how do you game that, which is pretty good. Let's see, and yeah, there's some other stuff in here, and I think you'll appreciate that. But it kind of, to me, if you're on the EAT side where you think it's a thing, it kind of, this is throwing a monkey wrench in the guy from Google saying, hey, the EAT technically doesn't exist. But there's all these things that are combined together inside these little algorithms combined together where you could say EAT is there. So he's validating that the concept is good, but maybe our understanding is not right on the line with that. So I'm not sure how we, go about, proving or disproving, or if we even want to at this point. But that one nugget right there for the references was pretty cool and spot on for me in my view, especially if you're doing outbound external links to authority sites. There's a validation there that says that's a good idea. What do you think on that, Ted?
Well, I think I think there's such a history of past problems with information coming out of Google. I suspect that most of that is BS until it's verified with testing. And I know that some of the stuff that was in there was conflicting other things said out of Google, like within the past month.
Yeah.
So, by the time you reconcile all of it, who really knows if this was the moment they finally came clean. Just more of the half truths and implausible deniability.
I wonder if I won't say I wonder, I kind of know because I visited the Seattle offices. and they specifically keep the search teams away from everyone else. I wonder if that's the same with their public voices, Gary, Danny, and John. Are they specifically, each one of them gets a different nugget, and then they are left to their own devices to determine how they want to voice that opinion on that nugget. You know what I mean? And that causes the riff between the spokespeople.
Well, but they have totally opposing views a lot of the time.
Right.
Danny Sullivan said they can't, quantify the accuracy of content. And in that Pubcon talk, Gary said that he considers that a ranking factor. And, those things are in opposition. So,
I wonder if from Danny's perspective, we can't do it, but from Gary's perspective, we have a little bot that is looking for references in this case. And if we don't see those references, then that's graded on a lower scale than one where they're citing sources.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been plenty of times where, Gary has said something that was, just incorrect with what we can measure in the field.
Yeah.
And, the same was true with Matt Cutts. John Mueller has a lot of those. So until we test some of these claims, I choose to remain skeptical.
Ted's middle name, Skeptical Ted. All right, this one is from Cognitive SEO. There's a lot of guys and gals that recommend them, in particular for their content editor. They're saying Jordan Pierce, for example, one that comes right off the mind. He's saying use the content editor here and match that with Page Optimizer Pro. I was using ClearScope. That's $300 a month, and we weren't using enough to get our $300 worth out of it. So we're probably going to jump down to Cognitive, and I also have Surfer SEO. So those would be two good. And it'd be a good test actually to put those head to head and see which ones rank better. But this post will walk you through some of the concepts behind why this tool works and why it's valuable. I appreciated the most of this section right here where it was talking about the different types of keywords: informational, navigational, and transactional. I don't know of any tool that actually helps you determine that. Obviously common sense, etc., will dictate it, but if there's a tool that kind of helps you from the perspective, that's pretty interesting to me. And then they talked about the marketing funnel and where those keywords come in, etc. So check this post out again. I have not used the tool yet. I will use the tool, and I'll probably do a comparison with Surfer SEO since they have something similar into here. And then I'll also try it out with bounced off of the recommendations that I get here and how they work in conjunction with Page Optimizer Pro and Cora, for example. And Surfer SEO's on-page optimization tools to see which one gives you the most bang for your buck. I think that would definitely be helpful. Bias aside, hopefully Quora wins, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, you got to go where the data leads you.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I'm a lazy SEO, so if I can get away with not doing everything Quora tells me to rank, then I'm going to do it. All right. So 14 link building strategies professionals choose to use in 2019. I think you'll see a lot of the same olds in here: guest posting, resource links, and links pages. Not enough people are actually using these. There's plenty of people out there that are making these kind of resource lists and stuff. And if there's one on your topic or one for your clients, and you need to get them on as many of these as you can. It doesn't take much. All you need is a cold email saying, hey, I found this resource list. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Here's one more place that, I think you might, your readers might enjoy. Could you please add it to the list? And it's yes or no. They can't tell you no if you don't ask. So I would leverage this as much as you can. And then public release and content submission, PR stuff. Those are really good still. And I think you should be leveraging those more. And one here is forum and blog comments. I actually found that pretty interesting, considering that most people that I know that are talking to people and telling them link building strategies all say go away from this, and then a survey actually turns around and says you should be doing it, which is really interesting to me. I've always done and continue to do both of these as link building methods. I just stopped, firing off the mass ones and do the more targeted, and you honestly you get a bigger bang for your buck. But you can still do mass, and they do work. You just got to be a little bit more selective in what mass is to you. So I would check that out. Ted, do you see anything groundbreaking on here that you think is underused?
Well, I think directories is another one that mainstream SEO is shying away from, except for local. They definitely like them for their industry directory citations.
What do you think of the argument that some people, citations don't help in rankings? But if it's a good citation, if it's a structured citation, it's a link, right? So if a link, how does a link not help in rankings? That would be the counter argument. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I tend to say a link is a link, and it's hard enough to get a link these days that are we really going to say no?
Yeah.
So it would have to be a really garbagey link for me to want to say no.
Yeah. I got a link for you. You can buy for $55 a month.
Well, I don't want to do that either. I don't think you should be paying big bucks for links because there's no guarantee that they'll last,
Yeah. Yeah, I think monthly, and on that topic, I think monthly link buying is for suckers anyway. So if your provider says, hey, I want to sell you links, but they're on a monthly basis, then just go find another provider. Alrighty. So that's good. So go check out that. Maybe there's something in there. Check out the forum and the blog comment section. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by that. They analyzed, or Brian Deans came out with another decent sized piece of content here. As they say, they analyzed 5.2 million desktop and mobile pages, and this is what they learned about PageSpeed, which is actually pretty interesting. Some highlights to me is that they're saying this one here. GitHub is faster than SiteGround, which is interesting, and Wix, which is interesting because what type of website were they building on GitHub? Was a SiteGround account shared, or was it managed WordPress hosting? Was it a dedicated server? Was it a cloud hosting? All those questions were not addressed inside of this. CDN was correlated with the worst page performance. Interesting also, based off of what they looked at. And then where's the other one? Squarespace and Weebly have the best overall page speed performance on mobile, and Wix and WordPress ranked at the bottom. Again, that's the same thing. What kind of hosting was it on? Was it a cheapo $5 HostGator shared hosting plan? Was it a where those WordPress sites hosted on WP Engine, which this says that is one of the better hosts to have is WP Engine. So a lot of this information is left out. And where were these 5.2 million pages? How did they decide which, so they didn't skew from one host to another or one factor from another? How was all that data looked at? And I didn't see it here, and maybe someone can tell me if that was here. Now, that said, I could bag on this all day long, but this is actually a really good way to document your testing in a way for your users. You can turn your tests, if you're doing them, into content for everyone else, and you see all the visualizations and stuff. This is really good to put all that information out here. The only caveat I would say is if you're going to claim you have 5.6 million, and you should be able to, or 5.2 million, you should also be able to just hand over your data sets and see if you come up with the same conclusions, or where are the holes in my testing thing. So if you're looking for something like that, I would look at the way this was done and try to figure out a better model for it. I challenge you, Lee, to do that. I don't know. I'm not sure if Lee can handle it, but I challenge Lee to do that. Come up with a better model for this.
We got Lee testing more important things.
Let's see. But again, this is really cool. I like this. So check it out. And this is from Eric Lancheries. I'm sure I pronounced his last name Lancheries. Lancheries. How do you say it? Lancheries, I think. And this is his look at the core update. He said the analysis of over 6 million pages, which is pretty interesting. Again, I didn't see the full data set, like what are the pages that he's looking at, but he made some interesting conclusions here on why he thought pages were recovering. And he's the summarized Reader's Digest version of this is it's links and anchor text inside of the that are bringing some of these pages back up or bringing them back down. So this is a really good read. It took me probably about 10 minutes to get through it. Again, the main issue I have is if you're going to say 6.6 million, let's see your data set. Obviously, you had it enough to make this post, then you should be able to publish it and release it to everyone. I didn't find it in here. But the concept behind the anchor text could be the issue or driving factor in the rising and falls is the most interesting part to me because I've done talks. I did it on Fight Club and I did it in presentations about anchor text analysis and looking at it from market to market, keyword to keyword. I'm not really deep into the health niche, so I couldn't, confirm or deny some of the philosophies behind this, but I find it really interesting looking at the anchor text now and how much more important that is, despite still today people are still suggesting 1 to 2% anchor text across the board. And I've only seen one, is Doug Cunningham. He actually did a post in 2014, and he's the only one that I've actually seen that ever says this is not set in stone. This is your guideline in order to make the correct decisions about your anchor text. Go to your market, look at your niche, look at your exact keyword and see what everyone else is doing and then match or, excel that. And he's the only one I've ever seen do that put out those kind of percentages. So I would check that out. Again, this is really well put together. His graphic skills are on point. I'm kind of jealous of his graphic skills. I'm going to step up my game. What's wrong with you, Ted? You're supposed to be challenging me more for these things.
Oh, well, I read through it, and a lot of it seems plausible. The things I've seen in the Google update are a little bit different. There is some support for the anchor text argument, but there's a lot of significant changes to on-page and which factors are correlating there.
Right.
And I don't want to spill the beans because we might be talking about that tomorrow. We might be talking about it next week.
Yeah.
And there's some definite things that we know about this latest deployment that Google has done because we could see it in the source code of the search engine result pages. And so there's no contesting that Google made a change when you can see it with your own eyes. So we want to talk about that too.
Which is interesting. I think this would be a good homework for that episode because a lot of he's saying that with the data that he saw, he didn't see much in the on-page changes. That's all that while you were talking, that's what I was going through is the on-page section. I think you remember where he's saying that not much of anything has changed. There was maybe 1 or 2 things that he said there was a change in. Which was the ad thing, I believe, saying that the more ads you had, now it hurt you more. So, but the rest of his data, again, we don't have it, but the rest of his data as he's presenting it says that there was no change in the on-page factors. It was all the anchor text and the links. So,
yeah, that I disagree with. I definitely saw changes in on-page and in some startling areas.
Right.
And so it looks like, there are some legacy, fringe SEO tactics that Google might be cleaning up. And so, yeah, saw some of that just plummet in the correlations.
But you've been when you're talking, Matt, you've been running those leaderboards, right? So that's what you're talking about. You see the leaderboards, and those are going through, and this is the things that are bouncing around and stuff.
Well, yeah. So I see the shared data from many tens of thousands of shared core reports, And then I'm also spot checking against like my actual calibration keywords. And, you know, when those things are in agreement about what the changes were, I start to get more confidence in them. And then there's the stuff that Google physically changes in the source code of the website. And those are just undeniable. Like those are witnessed phenomenon. You know, they made a change. You can look at the change. And so, yeah, there are some things we know with certainty, and then there are some things that we strongly suspect based on the data.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right, folks, that is it. That's the last of the stories. Let me check for questions. I didn't see any as we were going through here. Pablo's in the house. Again, while you're here, Pablo Rosales, like, thank you very much for creating those scripts and stuff. It kind of makes life easier. I showed you how to use them. Get into SEO Signals Lab if you want to see Pablo's videos. But really what I showed you is that's really all there is to it. So they're pretty easy to implement. So check those out. And I think that's it. There's no other questions. You guys have any other questions? I appreciate dropping them in now.
Oh, Leon had one on clean keyword density versus raw. So if you're unfamiliar with those terms, raw keyword density is the most inclusive. So you don't exclude any part of the page when you're counting words and matches. So you would include word count and keyword matches from within the HTML, within the JavaScript, within the head block, within the title. And lots of people calculate keyword density differently, and they may not include CSS class names. They may not include the image alt text in the keyword density calculations. So there's literally millions of different ways to calculate keyword density. And raw is the most optimistic, inclusive way to calculate it. And clean is the most exclusive way, where you're stripping everything out first before counting words. And most people, when they say keyword density, they're thinking closer to the clean end of the spectrum. So usually when people say never ever go past 4%, that 4% is somewhere close to the clean side. Raw is, it's interesting. What gets more interesting is when you compare the clean word count with the raw match count. And that is like the most aggressive way you could calculate keyword density. And what that number tends to show you is who's doing the most keyword stuffing shenanigans. So you can instantly spot the people with the highest calculations there are doing the most tricks.
Interesting. Let's see. Carl Arnold, indexing S3 buckets. Any tips? So I'm testing some stuff out. I use Colinkery all the time. That's not an indexer, it's a crawler. I use Index Inject for now still. And then I also am testing, Peter Drew's got a tool where it puts links onto Google Sites. And then he's got a whole bunch of them there. Like all his customers are all interlinked together. And that's supposed to be helpful with indexing as well. So I would try out those methods. And then there's a couple that I keep in my back pocket that I'm not going to tell you. But yeah, try those ones for right off. Colinkery for me is the best. This is crawling. Google's going to give it credit if you have really good content on it anyway. It's and when I say really good, is formatted properly. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the best article or anything, but just formatted properly, then it will get indexed naturally on its own with just Colinkery, and you don't need a whole lot of work to do it. And then Index Inject is just a kind of a backup thing for me. So that's a good opportunity to try those out. I think that's it. No more questions. So Ted, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on. Obviously, you already alluded to the possible topic tomorrow. I think Kyle's got another one too. So we'll see which one these two win the poll on who makes the most slides.
Kyle's gonna win the topic battle. So if he has room to spare, I'll throw in an update about the. Oh, there's my daughter Bianca. I'll throw in an update about the Google algorithm. But if Kyle doesn't have room, then we'll talk about the algorithm next week.
Good time. All right. Sweet. All right, everyone. And you all know Kyle talks fast and he wants to eat lunch, so I'm sure he's going to have room. So we'll see how that works out. And thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week on SEO.